when you hear the phrase fintech's next frontier, what's the first word or image that comes to your mind?
Can I have a few words?
Go for it.
No, I think it's really that an increasingly bespoke, responsive, anticipatory service to the customer.
Okay, great. We've just had a Mistral on stage, and of course, AI has been reshaping finance, whether that's in customer service and fraud detection. So I'm curious to hear your perspective. What are the biggest opportunities in this space in the coming years, but also the biggest risks?
Well, I think the biggest opportunity is undoubtedly banking is well positioned to drive agentic AI. Mm-hmm. I mean, putting the customer first, recognizing the journey the customer is going to take. There are going to be some that will take to it immediately. Not everyone will want to look at an autonomous agent. So banking is a great place to actually test and roll this out. Now, the UK has proven to be, I think, an extraordinary place in terms of putting AI and agentic AI as a solution to some of our productivity issues. So here we are as a nation that's seen as technology progressive. And therefore, I think the opportunities are there, but you're right, there are risks. We need to be responsible in the way we do it. We need to make sure that we get the regulation right, get the balance of regulation. Regulation can help, and we heard about the AI sandbox from the previous speaker, but it can also protect, but if it goes too far, it can hinder.
Right. Now, NatWest, of course, has become the first UK bank to partner with OpenAI. So I'm curious, what has that looked like so far? And also, how has it changed the experience for your colleagues?
Well, I think partnering with someone like OpenAI, getting early access to their models and getting their experts talking with our experts and being able to feed into their thinking as well has undoubtedly accelerated our AI journey. So whether it's on our chatbots or whether it is the solutions for our customers or solving some of our most complex customer issues that are out there, it's all helped. But I think it's also helped attract the best people into the company, not just partners, but people into the company. I mean, we've got our first AI research officer, Dr. Maya Pantic, comes in with an expertise in deepfakes, and so that all helps, and it also attracts other partners. We've got AWS and Accenture helping us on data. Internally, all the team are working with Microsoft and Copilot, and so everything is in there, but it's all part of a mix that is very much built in our own team plus partnership.
Maybe we can touch on AWS a little bit later, but just on that point, and in terms of the hiring spree, I remember reporting a few years back on Evident AI's banking index, and I recall how JP Morgan was hoovering up the best AI talent, and it was very much an AI arms race in terms of which banks could get the best talent. And of course, NatWest has climbed up the ranks. And so you've mentioned hiring. What other kind of investments has there been in this space?
Well, I think people are attracted to places where we are bold in what we're trying to do. I mean, we don't see AI as a peripheral activity. It's the heart of our strategy. We recognize that unless we get ahead of the game, then we can't possibly attract the customers of the future. So, when we go out and we look for our 12,000 engineers and counting, we're getting them. We already have 5,000 of those working on AI, enhanced by AI, and so, and then when we attract people like Maya, that turns heads. When we partner with people like OpenAI, that turns heads. So we're finding we're attracting all the people we want to attract.
Great. And does this mean when you compete with digital-first players, does it mean that you can compete more directly, or how has that kind of changed?
I don't think we compete directly. I mean, people recognize that there are advantages and there are challenges on both sides of that fence. To be a digital first, okay, you start with a clean slate digitally and technologically, but high growth has its problems. We start with an extraordinary database, with a reservoir of trust, with 20 million customers, with already 80% of our retail customers banking digitally, 95% of our products are available digitally. We have a base where people can work from. And the toughest thing, if you're a fintech, is finding a channel, finding a customer to really go out and test out your theories. We are the perfect test base, and therefore, people come to us so that they can do that. We can provide the funding as well.
And just on that point, I was reading a bit about your AI assistant, which I believe is called Cora Plus, and I saw it had seen a 150% boost in customer satisfaction. So I'm curious, what had changed?
Well, I mean, that's just really increasing the level of AI to what was initially was quite a basic technology. But more to the point, we're getting far higher retention rates through the calls because we're producing a medium that our customers are happy with banking with, and it's solving their problems. In the end, unless this is anticipating and it is solving the customer problems, then it is not worth it as technology. Right,
I hear you. So on the flip side, I know in the previous panel they also discussed this, and you've just mentioned this too, but finance is one of the most regulated industries. So then how do you balance this need for fast innovation, but with also remaining compliant and auditable and ethical?
Well, I think everyone, it doesn't matter whether you're regulated or not, has basically got to make sure that there's human in the loop, that you respect and promote human agency, that the tech is reliable, that there's no bias, that and so on and so forth, that you can explain it. It doesn't matter whether you're regulated or not. Actually, we have an advantage because we are used to regulation. All our models that are AI infused have been regulated for years. We know how to manage in a regulated environment. And so I think it's the regulatory conversation is a sensible one right now, but it's a one that we feel very comfortable with.
Let's move on to the next section, because we've got lots to get through. There was a lot of discussion around European sovereignty, so let's hone in on the UK and the sort of global fintech momentum that we're seeing. And of course, this country's always been a powerhouse when it comes to finance. But I'm really curious from your perspective, how do you see the UK in terms of its global standing at the moment?
Well, I think we're very strong. We have a great fintech reputation. Wherever I go around the world, people speak of it. It's not just in London, it's in all the nations and the regions. It's Edinburgh, it's Manchester, it's Leeds, it's Cardiff. But that's been born of actually really quite enlightened regulation in the past, whether it's the FCA sandbox or whether it's open banking. It's been born of the talent we have in the country, or the universities churning out great people. When you look at universities, more people in entrepreneurial clubs than playing sport. It wasn't like that in my day. And then it also it helps that banks like us and other institutions are there to support it. I think also, as I mentioned earlier, with the UK having gained a reputation for being technologically progressive, it's great to see these big tech partnerships, big tech piling money into the country, forging these partnerships with the government and the regions. And so all of that helps, but we can't take this for granted. International competition is growing very rapidly, and unless we really think intentionally and strategically about how to invest in these companies, how to get these partnerships going, to get more of our pension fund money into the venture capital world, so they don't have to go to the US, they don't have to go overseas to find the startup and the scale-up capital. Until we sort that out, we're in danger of losing the lead.
There's 2 points I want to pick on there. So it was just a few weeks ago that NVIDIA's CEO was in the UK, and he said that he was investing in quite a few firms, including Revolut. And yet, just on that point, we've seen several UK fintechs, they're able to scale here. But then when it comes to the next step, when they look to list, or when they look to growth capital, they're eyeing the US. So if you could just elaborate a few more points on how can the UK retain its title of being this fintech hub?
Well, I think it doesn't have to just be about finance, because I think to ensure that the regulators and the government and the regional hubs and the fintech companies themselves and banks like us focus on this, and we do what we can do, which is lend, invest, partner, advise, all of these things. That all helps. But it would be great to see more of our pension fund money in the UK go to UK companies and to the venture capital. The level going to the UK capital is infinitesimally small in the UK, and we've got to find some way of increasing that. You can't do it by mandate, but I think where there's a focus on this, whether it's through the Mansion House Accord or through what the government is talking about in terms of their growth strategy, this is very important that we make some change here.
Yeah, you just reminded me earlier this year when Wise announced it is deciding to shift its primary listing from London to New York. That definitely rocked the markets here. But I guess another point is around regulation, and some of the people I speak to say some things are pretty slow. One of the points that is raised is around the Genius Act and how that's kind of means that there's a lot faster innovation around stablecoins in the US, and like the UK is like far behind when it comes to that. So yeah, I just thought it would be good to hear your thoughts around that too.
Well, I think we'd move into a whole new realm of stable coins and tokenized deposits, etc. There's no doubt that the MiCA Act in Europe put the topic on the table. The Genius Act, obviously with the backing of the US administration, has taken off very rapidly and is hitting the world with scale of the dollar-denominated stablecoin. We in the UK are less focused on stablecoin, more on tokenized deposits. Like the US, we don't believe in a central bank digital coin. Europe, central bank digital coin, stable coin, tokenized deposits. Now, the regulation is more focused right now, rightly, on infrastructure and interoperability. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a whole bunch of walled gardens of liquidity, little localized pieces of infrastructure, and I think that's the right place to be. Now, I can't do anything at a government level. At a board level, we're saying the only way to deal with the massive uncertainty of this is put your chips on a lot of different squares here and be excellent in something, because at some point you're going to get a killer use case appear, and the abstraction layer will unify all of this, and unless you're everywhere and excellent at something, you will not have a seat at the table. So from a board standpoint, in these early days of uncertainty, it is optionality and hedging bets. Okay.
I think just because, in the interest of time, I do want to, I would have loved to have heard more around that, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, fintechs are moving really fast. So do you see these upstarts as partners, competitors, a bit of both?
Remember, I was 15 years at MasterCard, from the early days of mobile through to the maturing. And that went competitor, maybe not, partner. And that, I think we're going to see the same transition here.
And we were discussing AWS before, and they're obviously a huge partner for a lot of these firms. And just going back to the question around sovereignty, like, how do you deal with these issues that we're seeing it more and more when you see these sort of outages?
Well, these are outstanding companies that have brought in enormous technology and capability to companies like ourselves. But we recognize that there's potential fallibility in these. Therefore, one diversifies. We have many partners across those areas, and we make sure our own systems are robust, resilient, and rapidly recoverable. And that shows in our stats in recent years.
Now, if you had to bet on one game-changing innovation that will change the landscape in the next few years, what would it be?
I think that actually tokenization has been very important. It democratizes finance. It allows the agentics to have far more choices. And when quantum finally makes it into the scene, then there's far more asset to play with.